RetrofloraPodcast. I'm Brenda.
And I'm Charmy, and we're just two crazy sisters with an opinion and a channel.
If you like true crime, conspiracies, and supernatural crap, then this is your channel. Welcome back. Today I have some creepy tales.
From the hood.
No, not from, no.
Okay, but the movie Tales of the Hood, it scared the crap out of me growing up.
The only one that scares me is those little dolls that eat.
The first story with the zombie, and the way, it was, so creepy.
Yeah, only the story about,
Don't
those
say
dolls.
it.
I'm not gonna say the doll's name.
Don't say what he called them.
Yeah, they do have a name. It's
racist.
It's a derogatory name.
It's really bad. If you want to know, look it up or watch the movie. But yeah, don't say that word.
So I've been fascinated with the Appalachian Mountains and trails. So I definitely found two stories that creeped me out. Okay, so this first story comes from the No Sleep Reddit thread, and it's from Mr. Michael Squid. And it's called The Stretched People of Appalachia.
So I'm guessing they're going to be tall.
Guess we'll have to find out.
This is just the Slender family. Without further ado, let's get into this.
The Appalachian Trail attracts tourists from all over the world. Hiking, it is considered a rite of passage to some. But the stunning views are what brought my friend and coworker Jeremy and me to the Smokies. We trekked out Saturday through the mountain trail in North Carolina, just below Tennessee, eager to witness the wildlife and brilliant fall landscapes. The sun cast warm beams through the spruce fir. I don't know what that
Isn't it spruce fir? I'm pretty sure it is.
Whatever Charmy said. The sky was a magnificent pinkish golden hue that resonated within me and filled me with a long-lost appreciation for this world. Don't say it. I know what you're about to say.
Appalachian?
No, I thought you were going to say he's using too much.
Imagery and stuff like that. I was okay with that.
Okay.
It's okay if it sounds right when you say it, but if it's choppy, I'm like, no.
Lovely, isn't it? Jeremy stated. He bit into a granola bar with a hearty crunch. A few crumbs landed in his fluffy black beard.
Okay, this is the part where I will say this. I'm okay. If he's writing a novel, you can do this. But if this is a short story, a creepy short story, does this really matter? Does this add to the scary ambiance?
He's trying to get you there. You need to visualize those granola bar crumbs and Jeremy's beard.
Am I afraid of those the crumbs?
I don't know.
I can't say granola crumbs.
It depends. Are you afraid of granola?
No, I feel like this doesn't add to the scariness of the story. This just you just put in stuff.
He looks like a mid-20s Santa, rosy cheeks and all. Sure beats The Office. I don't know. I kind of miss corporate meetings and the soothing sound of the broken printer. Jeremy's smile widened. Or Greg scoffing at every email request he receives. Something very zen about that too. Very soul-soothing, he joked back. Alright, Office Max, let's hit the trail. The September chill was invigorating, although it was a bit colder than I dressed for. I pulled up the hood on my jacket and followed Jeremy's lead, a bit surprised at seeing my stocky friend hiking up the incline so effortlessly. This was the first time we'd done anything together aside from knocking back beers over pool games or the occasional meal out. He married young and usually reserved day trips like this for his wife. She was out west with her family this time, and I was happy to oblige his offer.
Okay, we better hear some scary stuff from his wife for this to really matter. He better be in the woods and that's my wife calling me. Then I'll say, okay, you can add this to the story. But if she never comes up again, I'll be so mad.
Charmy's gonna be so mad.
Oh my god.
Twigs cracked beneath my boots as I followed Jeremy. The trees were a brilliant radiance of orange, yellow, and green. Basswood, dogwoods, and magnolias popped in a vibrant patchwork panorama. It was truly breathtaking, and I appreciated Jeremy inviting me along on the nature walk. But then, an hour in, Jeremy decided to stray from the plotted path. We'd rounded a few narrow dirt paths to reach an overhang where Jeremy wanted to take a photo. It was an exposed face of the mountain offering a clear view of a valley below. Mind you, they are in Appalachia. And he just straight off the trail, just so that we get this.
Yeah, it's all that. Jeremy's fault.
It was obvious why he decided to take a detour for a photo op. It was gorgeous. I wheezed, a bit out of breath, as we finally climbed up the steep ridge. He slapped a gloved hand on my shoulder and smiled into the phone's camera lens as well. He framed a great picture of us with the enormous valley behind us, but then the device slipped from his hand onto the steep dirt hill. We watched it tumble down into the dense cluster of trees at the bottom. Jeremy yelled. I really didn't look forward to climbing all the way down, then all the way back up again. Is it cool if I stay here while you get it? I asked, eager for a break. My calves were sore and tight, and I was out of breath.
Just forget it. Just go home.
You got insurance? Let's just use the insurance.
Yeah.
Because I know me, and I'm not going down there. I'm just using my insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you're such an indoor kid, he smirked. I shrugged. I mean, he wasn't wrong. Sure, I'll see you in a bit. I watched Jeremy descend the steep incline.
What kind of friend are you? You can at least watch his back.
He's watching him.
Is he?
From the top.
Oh my God.
Winding down off the path and into the stark shadows of the woods. You know what? Jeremy's probably thinking, like, man, if you go down there, you're going to make time. It's going to take longer trying to get back up because he's not built like Jeremy.
He ain't built.
Just keep calling it so I can follow the ring. No problem. I called back. And Jeremy, just a small form among the valley of pines, vanished. I only then realized how utterly isolated this area of the forest was. We hadn't come across another hiker in over 45 minutes, and I gathered our little detour from the main trail mustn't have taken longer than I thought. Aside from the rustle of leaves and the occasional creak of swaying branches, it was quiet. A loud snapping sound echoed up from the basin, a tree branch, more than likely. I dialed Jeremy's number, and soon after I heard a faint ringtone. The phone must have tumbled farther than I realized. I shook my head, well aware if his screen was likely shattered. He'd be using mine for the photos for the rest of the hike. I heard the ringing phone continue for a bit, then it stopped as it went to voicemail. See it? I yelled down the side of a steep incline. The cold air was starting to numb my cheeks. Winter was on its way. No response from Jeremy. I redialed, then listened to the faint ringing from the deep woods below. When it finally went to voicemail once again, I felt a bit anxious. Jeremy, I yelled down. A woodpecker's rapid knocking carried over the valley from some unseen tree, but no other sound at all. Jeremy, you okay? I shouted down. Only the rattling groans of the trees and the occasional crack of branches was heard from below. I decided to go check on him.
You stupid.
Girl, you just said he was a bad friend for not going, and now he's stupid.
Get a hiker or something. Like, you're going down there and you don't know. Jeremy clearly isn't okay. He's not answering back.
Yeah, I have to admit, I wouldn't go down there either. I would go get him help.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Go get him help. Like, get other hikers who are more experienced in the area.
Yeah, because I would hate to get lost trying to find him.
And then I was...
Because they're not on the path.
It's all Jeremy's fault.
Hiking down the decline was easy, but I was well aware that the climb back up was waiting. I was careful not to slip as I left the trail and edged my way down into the wooded valley, where Jeremy had vanished. The pines had looked so small from up on the path, but as I descended, I realized they were enormous. It was a dense wilderness in a basin. Light barely penetrated the intertwined pine needles and leaves. Jeremy, I called out. I should have been within hearing distance, but he still didn't respond.
All I'm thinking about is Jeremy from Vampire Diaries.
It's not him. I called his phone once again. It rang close by. I followed the sound, spotting it a few meters ahead of the forest floor. Sure enough, the screen was cracked, but it had miraculously survived. Then I noticed something white and pearl-like on the forest floor. I walked closer and squatted down to analyze it. My gut shifted and my throat closed a bit as I realized what I was looking at. A human tooth. Hey, Jeremy, are you okay? I called out. I'd seen him reach the bottom, so I know he hadn't fallen. Might not be his, I thought, and I peered into the endless pillars of tree trunks that sprawled out into the valley. Though hesitant, I decided to walk a bit in. Jeremy, I yelled into the woods. I could hear my own voice faintly echo off the surrounding mountains.
He's stupid.
I tried to rationalize that maybe Jeremy had just headed a bit inward to relieve himself, but I was getting a bit scared. I felt the fall leaves and pine needles soften my steps as I continued on. I then saw another small white shape on the ground. It was a bloody human molar, root and all.
Ew.
The leaves surrounding it were flecked with droplets of fresh red blood. Any notion of bravery was quickly abandoned due to the fact that those teeth landed there recently. I needed to get out of the woods and call the police.
Yeah.
I turned back and headed towards the wood's edge in a brisk walk, wishing it was closer.
And a brisk walk? You were a sprint? You gotta get the hell out of there. You over here just quickly walking.
I was a good 30 meters in. I don't know how many feet that is. Give us a second. We're going to calculate that for you. That's 98 feet. And I quickened my pace into a brisk jog. I felt a wave of relief when I saw his hand around the tree up ahead. "Jeremy," I yelled out, but my jog slowed to a stop and my insides went cold. The hand wasn't as far away as I thought it was. Its size had created an optical illusion of sorts. It wasn't Jeremy's. It had long white fingers and bulbous knuckles and looked distorted as if a normal human hand had been elongated, somehow stretched out to become twice the length. Worry melted into horror as a large, strange head peeked out from the other side of the thick tree. It was horrible. A mess of pale, saggy flesh that clung loosely to an enormous stretched skull.
You know what I don't get? Why are all, like, in these stories we read, they're always, like, pale and long, and, like, wouldn't they really stand out in the forest? Like,
I don't know.
You would think they would camouflage, right?
I don't know.
Like, Slender Man, a man in the suit in the forest does not look right.
Yeah, but the thing is, not everyone sees Slender Man. Like,
I know, but he's, like he's not trying to be discreet about it. He's just out there.
Like, I don't know what you want me to tell you. So we just did a podcast on Slender Man and he's not real, so.
I know, but like if he was, like, you would think he'd be more discreet about it.
He had all those abilities. I think this being discreet is his least worries.
Well, same with this thing. Like he
could literally get into your mind. Like,
well, this creature in this woods in this story is like he's like out there. Like he stands out. I feel like he would want to camouflage if you're out there killing people and stuff.
Well, he's also not in a trail. And if they're not taller than the trees and stuff like that, from a distance, you wouldn't be able to see them because the trees would be blocking a lot of it.
I don't know. I just feel like he's doing too much.
He's just existing.
Oh, he needs to stop.
Well, I agree, but we'll find out why. A bizarre, exaggerated grin that split the face into two was filled with little pointed nubs of teeth glistening red. There was no visible nose amid the folds of bunched flesh under the eyes, which were the worst feature by far. The eyes were perfectly spherical, white orbs, glossy and wet. They stared at me with eagerness, the way an animal stares at its food.
Didn't you just eat Jeremy?
Jerry. Hey, Jeremy.
It was Jeremy, not enough?
R.I.P. Jeremy, okay? Dang, get his name right. I froze, unable to peel my gaze away from the hideous face that lured at me from behind the tree. It was far too high up as well, nearly 8 feet up from the leafy ground, though it was clearly hunched. I took a hesitant step backwards, and as I did, it emerged. Long, soap-white arms and legs extended from the covers of thick tree trunks. With knobby knees and pronounced ribs, it resembled a person suffering from starvation or perhaps extreme anorexia, yet scaled up to the size of a giant.
I guess that's why he needed to eat 2 people, because he's skinny as hell.
All right, he's like 8 feet tall. I stepped back a bit more, my boot squishing into something. I glimpsed down to see a mound of pudgy flesh beneath my boot. It was half of a human hand, a wedding band on the base of the finger missing the tip. It was Jeremy's hand. Then I heard what might have been misconstrued as the wind bending all those trees. The thing was making that sound. It took a long stride in my direction, the horrible gash of a grin dripping strings of saliva in anticipation. I ran.
Okay, so I get why they added the wife now for the wedding band thing.
Okay.
But they didn't have to add the beard and shit. Unless they, talk about the beard.
I don't think they talk about his beard.
Then, yeah, that was unnecessary.
Well, I guess they didn't have to tell where the wife was going. He said he married young, but... My heartbeat pounded in my ears as I fled. Adrenaline pumped through me as I ran deeper into the dense woods, away from the horrific giant. Whips of ragged branches scratched my face and snagged my jeans. I soon passed shreds of clothing, chips of bones, and clumps of hair. I ran past stripped finger bones and even a meatless femur. Dang, he sucked all the meat off that bone.
And he's still skinny as
All that remained of Jeremy were the inedible parts. I was going to die in these woods. I slowed my pace when I saw movement up ahead in the distance. 2 naked figures, slender, absurdly tall, and terribly deformed, stalked the woods with the same wide, bulgy white eyes and hideous grins. They hadn't spotted me yet. My heart was pounding so hard I feared they would hear. I looked back, seeing the long-limbed things stride forward. I was pinned. My only chance was to hide. I frantically scanned the area and found a wide-trunked tree that looked rotted and hollowed near the roots. It seemed like the best shot. shot, so I raced over and squeezed myself into the hollow base of the tree, ignoring the tearing of my jacket and the burning from my scraping my skin in the process. I hushed my breathing and waited still, and as quietly as I could. A few minutes later, the sound of cracking of twigs and crushed leaves drew closer. I watched through a gap in the bark as panic flooded my mind. The strange vocalization sound once again, followed by another voice from further out in the dense forest. They were communicating. A few other rattlings, throaty sounds were made before I heard the sound of footsteps continue on, getting quieter and quieter as they continued into the woods.
Well, they could just been like, let's wait till he comes out and eat him.
I breathed out in relief, but the view of the woods was blocked by a long, horrific face. One of those things had leaned down to look into the open gap and was now staring directly at me, just a foot away. It was enormous, twice the height of my own head. I'm sorry, that's a big
Wait,
head.
twice the height?
I think his head is, his whole face is like twice the size of his head. That's crazy. Those milky white teeth stared at me, and I was sure these were my final moments. The dripping smile of the creature quivered, and it cocked its head slightly to the side. After a few seconds of reeling from the horror of its presence, I understood it wasn't seeing me at all. It was blind.
So if I'm quiet, it won't hear me? I don't know, it's just a theory.
I guess.
Okay, that's gonna be very hard in this woods where I know.
I think that's
everywhere.
I think that's why his best bet was to hide, because
you better throw a rock in the other direction.
I know, right? Its breath was rotten and gamey. It wheezed through those small, sharp teeth and stared at me with those unseeing eyes for a minute. But it eventually stood, vanishing from my view. Then I listened to the leaves rustle as it walked away.
Wouldn't it also make the other sounds that the other ones make confuse it?
What do you mean?
Like, it said, like, it rustled leaves. Wouldn't that also make him confused? Like, there's, like, so much going on. Like, the way in, like, Don't Breathe, like, the reason why he was getting away with it because it was so quiet. But she realized if she made a little bit of sound, he couldn't really figure out where she was.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying.
I'm just reading a story.
His own sound would mess him up. Okay, keep going.
I guess then I would go with the same with The Quiet Place. Those creatures walking around too. With that.
Yeah, but those creatures are huge.
Yeah, so are they. These are 8 feet.
But it was like the Quiet Place one.
They also could smell too. So that also may. Well, obviously
the
not.
Quiet Place ones.
Never mind. They can't smell because he clearly can't
smell him, and he should be able to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Just a theory.
Mm-hmm. I then listened to the leaves rustle as it walked off to some other section of the vast forest. I stayed in the hollow of the trunk for maybe an hour before I finally braved peeking out. They were gone. I was cautious to make little noise as I backtracked as best as I could. I feared I lost my way and was heading deeper still towards those enormous things, but the mountainside soon became visible through the leaves.
Well, he could just follow the trail of dead body parts back. It's not like they cleaned up after themselves.
Well, let me tell you something. I had gone back to the area I'd found Jeremy's detached mangled hand, but it was gone. The cell phone was too, as well as the teeth. Nothing remained of my friend.
Why did they take the cell phone? Wait, why did they take the cell phone?
Maybe they're in the background in the picture. They're like, no evidence.
Well, at least they cleaned up after themselves.
All right, they cleaned up the crime scene. I climbed out of the valley and began my return, all the while making calls to the park rangers and local police.
And telling them what? They cleaned up the evidence.
By the time I made it back to the car, it was surrounded by patrol cars as well as an ambulance. For no reason, because there ain't nothing left.
I know, right?
Officers, rangers, and paramedics were milling about, and they were all eager to question me. I explained the events that had transpired. The police were skeptical, as were the paramedics and the rangers. But one withered, older park ranger named Bob took me aside after the statements were made. Bob looked at me with remorse. He then looked out into the sea of trees and spoke. My grandfather told me a folk tale when I was a child, one that terrified me, one he swore was real. The story of the stretch people of Appalachia. It was an old tale of a family that fell into a cave and were trapped ages ago. Incest and evolution kept them going. The kids with the longest limbs were kept alive and the others used for food. Dang.
I know, that's kind of messed up.
Evolution in the cave took their sight, but selective breeding heightened their stature bit by bit, each following generation.
I don't think that's true. I don't think that actually happens.
I wished it would be a scary story to keep kids in line. I never wanted to believe when he said he saw one in his youth from the mouth of a hidden cave. I never wanted to believe they were real. Bob's eyes grew wide and his voice quivered with fear as he continued. or that they could eventually grow tall enough to get out.
Oh, wait, Bob was the police officer?
Well, he was the old park ranger.
Oh, park ranger. Oh, okay.
So he was saying that there's the tale of that.
You know what? They need a better name than stretch people. They need something else. That's not scary.
I googled this, but I can't find anything but that story. So I don't know how true this is. Probably not true, but also it's the Appalachian Mountains. So proceed with caution. Please.
She showed me a picture of it. I don't know why, but I thought the torso would be long. It's like the long legs, and it goes to like the head and the arms. It's no torso. I was like, what the heck?
I don't even know where the food goes.
It reminds me of that Family Guy thing. It's like the cousin with the long legs.
The legs that stretch so long or something like that.
Yeah, that's what they look like apparently.
I don't know if it's real, but if like I were in his position, I would be scared. So I would be scared crapless. Like I would be terrified.
You know, it's also weird that he said that the family lived there and they lived through incest and cannibalism. But it wouldn't really
and inbreeding.
And inbreeding, that's incest.
Yeah, that's incest.
Yeah.
Well, breeding in general, because they clearly were killing off the short-lived kids.
Yeah, but I was thinking why would they clean up their mess afterward?
I'm assuming so that nobody knows they're out there, so nobody will come looking for them. Like right now, as you can see, nobody believed anything he said.
I don't know. I just felt like that was a stretch, but okay.
It was creepy though.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to go in the woods, and I never do. So
right. Wait, they can't see. They can't even see. It doesn't even matter.
But also, it's kind of hard to shoot something with really long legs like that. It's like a whole hole.
No, it really is. You guys, when you see this picture, you're gonna die because like, what in the world? I mean, if I saw that thing, yeah, I'd run too. But like, if I survive, I would probably laugh. Okay, so this next story is called My Grandma Just Passed Away and I Found Her Old Journals. And it's written by visual_truth_772 on the No Sleep Reddit thread. And it goes, my grandma passed away last month. I inherited her home. It's been in the family for years, but my parents have had their own home a bit farther away now after my grandma passed. And it was left to me. My sister and I were going through her belongings the other day and we discovered a small wooden chest hidden in the attic. That's already starting off bad. If you find a small wooden chest hidden in the attic, give it to a historian to open. Honestly, this sounds like Sinister, only it wasn't wooden chest, it was like that cardboard box. That sounds like a step up though, then from Sinister. You mean like production wise? I mean like cursed object wise. I guess so, I don't know. I don't think you can really label how much a cursed object is very well. It went from a cardboard box to a wooden chest. I mean, the wooden chest is more valuable than the cardboard box. But let's see who does more damage. It was old, covered in dust, and had a rusty lock that had long since ceased to function. Inside, we found stacks of leather-bound journals, each meticulously dated and filled with my grandmother's elegant handwriting. The journals spanned decades from 1960 to the turn of the century. My grandma was always a storyteller, weaving tales of our family's deep roots in the remote corners of the Appalachia, but she never mentioned these journals. As I started reading, the stories unfolded with an eerie familiarity, painting a chilly picture of our family's history. With each entry, the sense of foreboding grew stronger, and I realized these weren't just stories. They were warnings, and now the past seemed to be clawing its way into my present. Journal entry August 15th, 1960. We've settled in Abingdon, a remote, isolated part of the Appalachia. The land here feels ancient, steeped in untold stories and whispers of the past. The locals are a superstitious lot, with warnings about the woods that surround our new home. They say never whistle after dark, as it invites the attention of things best left undisturbed. Last night as the sun set behind the mountains, I felt a strange heaviness in the air, almost as if the mountains themselves were watching us. The wind carried strange, faint whispers that seemed to beckon me into the forest. I wondered if moving here was a mistake. Yeah, girl, I'm gonna go off a limb and say that moving here was a mistake. Yeah. Journal entry October 2nd, 1961. So this is pretty much a year later. What took you so long? Something strange happened tonight. As dusk fell, I heard a distant haunting whistle from the direction of the woods. It sent a shiver down my spine, and I hurried inside, bolting the door behind me. Curiosity got the better of me, and I peeked through the window. Girl,
This is why you die. I don't know
Don't.
if you die.
Isn't that one of the rules? Like, don't look out into the forest line in the Appalachian Mountains.
I don't know. I don't want there.
Appalachian Mountains. A girl, I don't know live there either, but she needs to know the rules.
I ain't never gonna be over there.
You never say never, girl. You don't know.
I'm gonna train myself to California.
Girl, if California sink, then you going down?
Yeah.
Well, we might sink because the earthquakes is coming. At the edge of the forest, I saw a figure. Girl, see, this is why. If you didn't look out there, you wouldn't have seen no figure. At first, it looked like a man, but its limbs were unnaturally long. Oh my god, it's the stretch people.
I tell you, all these monsters look the same.
Its eyes glowed with an eerie light. It stood there, motionless, for what felt like hours before vanishing into the shadows. I'm sorry.
Showers.
Did you stand out there for hours? Oh, it felt like it was hours. My bad. It's gonna be like, lady, do not have no staring eye contest with this thing. I didn't sleep at all that night, girl, same. Haunted by the image of those glowing eyes. Later, as the night grew deeper, the sounds of the forest became unnaturally silent, and I heard the creak of the floorboards outside my bedroom door. Girl, do not look out this window. I held my breath, straining to hear any movement, but there was nothing. The air grew colder, and a sense of dread seeped into my bones. I knew something was out there, something that didn't belong. Journal entry, November 13th, 1965. And this is like 4 years later.
These are very sparse notes.
Maybe she's like, out of sight, out of mind, out of sight, out of mind. The air in Abingdon has grown thick with fear. People have been disappearing without a trace. Last night, I was jolted awake by the sound of someone whistling outside my window. My heart raced as I peeked through the curtains. There, under the pale moonlight, stood a tall figure. Its eyes were like twin flames burning into my soul. It raised a hand and beckoned, its long fingers curling in a gesture that chilled me to the bone. I stayed awake until the first light of dawn, too terrified to move or make a sound.
So are these monsters doing something or just want to terrorize people?
Girl, why do you keep looking out this window?
Like, he could have got her a million times.
Why does she keep looking out this window? As the hours dragged on, I heard the sound of soft footsteps circling the house. The floorboards creaked and the walls seemed to groan under the weight of an unseen presence. I could feel it watching me, a cold, malevolent gaze that pierced through the walls. When dawn finally broke, the oppressive feeling lifted, but the terror lingered.
Wait, you can feel his gaze through the walls?
Yeah, I guess like that feeling of somebody's watching you. Journal entry, February 9th, 1970. So
and you're still there, by the way.
I know.
10 years? I don't know, 5?
This is 5 years.
But between the first one is 9 years?
It's been 10 years.
10 years, and you're still here. I do not feel bad for you at all.
Uncle Bill is gone. He left the house in the dead of night, muttering that he heard Ma's voice calling him from the woods. We tried to stop him, but he was convinced it was her, despite Ma being dead for 5 years. The search party found his hat the next day, torn and bloody, but there was no sign of Uncle Bill. The locals whisper about the things that mimic human voices to lure their prey. I can't shake the feeling that something malevolent is watching us, waiting for the right moment to strike.
Should we take a shot every time they say malevolent?
I know, right? The night he disappeared, the air was thick with fog, and the trees seemed to close in around the house. Shadows danced at the edge of the forest, and I heard faint whispers carried on the wind. They sounded like Ma, but distorted, wrong. As the fog crept closer, the whispers grew louder, and I could feel a presence pressing in on all sides. When Uncle Bill stepped into the mist, it swallowed him whole, and then the whispers stopped. So if I'm reading these journals in this house where this person lived, there's no way I would be reading these journals in the house where this person lived. Like, after first journal entry, I would have been gone.
Yeah. But I don't know. Grandma survived to have more kids, so I don't know. Maybe she made a deal with the devil.
Journal entry, September 21st, 1980. This is 10 years.
Of this, and she still hasn't moved.
I found a strange track behind the house today. Yep, already been. If you didn't need any other clear sign than this is it.
But I'm just wondering why the beasts are attacking her. Are they vampires that they need to be invited in or something?
Girl, I don't know.
Because like he was really tapping at the window.
But it seems like they want you to come to the forest.
Well, we all know they're lazy then. they want you to do it. Come to us.
You do half work, I do half work. They looked like hoof prints, but far larger and deeper than any animal native to these parts. The old timers say it's the devil himself, roaming the hills and looking for souls to claim.
What did I tell you?
They speak of an ancient curse, a pact made by our ancestors with dark forces to protect the land. I used to think these were just old wives' tales, but now I'm not so sure. The air is thick with a sense of foreboding, and I can't shake the feeling that something is watching us from the shadows. As I follow the tracks, I notice the forest growing unnaturally silent. Girl, why are you following these tracks? The usual sounds of wildlife are absent, replaced by a heavy, oppressive stillness. The tracks led to a clearing where the ground was scorched as if burned by intense heat. In the center of the clearing, I saw a figure, tall and gaunt, with eyes that glowed like embers. It turned its gaze towards me, and I felt a wave of dread wash over me. I fled back to the house, but I could feel its presence following me, a dark shadow that clung to my every step. Journal entry May 12, 1995. I think this is 15 years.
I don't understand why she's still there.
I've seen it with my own eyes, girl.
You saw it with your own eyes before. What you talking about?
The creature, whatever it is. I was out checking the traps when I felt an overwhelming sense of dread, as if I was being watched. You know, this should be her norm now. I turned and saw a creature emerging from the woods. It shifted forms, part human, part beast, its eyes burning with an unnatural light.
What if it's Grandpa? That's why he's not killing her. He in love with her.
Anyway. It let out a low growl, a sound that seemed to vibrate through my very bones. I ran, stumbling and tripping in my haste, but I never looked back. Even now, I could feel his eyes on me, a malevolent presence that haunts my every step.
Shot.
The night after my encounter, I heard scratching at my window. Girl, do not look out that window. I dared not look. Okay, thank you. But the sound was persistent, a slow, deliberate scraping that sent my nerves on edge. I covered my ears, but the noise only grew louder, more intense. Finally, I mustered the courage to peek through the curtains. There it was, I don't like saying this word, fleshy boy. It's a Native American thing that flesh and it walks.
Oh my god.
Its face pressed against the glass, eyes glowing with an otherworldly hunger. I screamed, and it vanished, but I knew it would be back.
Yeah, it comes back like every year.
Journal entry December 31st, 1999. This is 4 years later from that post that she still lives there after he's seen her, and she know he gonna be back.
When did she start popping out kids?
Girl, I don't know.
Because were your kids not seeing this either? Like, I don't understand. Like, when did you move?
I would say, what if her kids are, like, her mom is dead, so maybe her kids are, like, already older.
Okay, but if she's in the 60s, and this is approximately 30 years later, like, how old were you? Like,
because even if she was 20 in the 60s, 30 years later...
But she lived out there, and she was, like...
1960s when the first journal entry began.
And she saw the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, let's say that she's... had her kids already, it'll make her, 40, 50? Because her kids aren't ever mentioned.
I know, but, like, it seems like she's only mentioning the crazy things that are happening.
Yeah, but I feel like if your kids were out there and they didn't see nothing, only you saw something, like Uncle Bill.
I mean, she only really mentioned him because he went missing. And she only mentioned Ma because he was hearing her voice, but she wanted us to know that she was dead.
I don't know, I just feel like I need to know what her age
I think she's old right now because, like...
writing this?
She's probably young when she started. I mean, we're talking about... This is more than actually 30 years because that happened in 1960 and this is 1999.
Yeah, so it's like 40 years later.
Yeah, so, I mean, she's had time to have kids and be a grandmother.
I just feel like you lived there your whole life and not mention anything.
Maybe she's like, man, I'm lucky because it never came for me.
But she's stupid. I hate her.
Oh my god, you don't need to hate her, Charmy. Journal entry December 31st, 1999. Tonight, there's an electricity in the air as if something monumental is about to happen. The wind carries strange whispers, and I hear the faintest, most unsettling sounds of whistling. They say the new millennium will bring change, but I fear it's bringing something else. And girl, then leave!
She had 40 years to leave.
Something ancient, something hungry. As midnight approaches, the feeling of dread grows stronger. The shadows seemed to move on their own, and I swear I saw a pair of glowing eyes staring at me from the edge of the forest. I can't shake the feeling that the past is catching up with us. Whatever it is, it's coming for me.
Girl's been coming for you for years.
As the clock struck midnight, the house was plunged into darkness. The wind howled and the walls groaned as if under immense pressure. I heard footsteps, slow and deliberate, moving through the house. The air grew colder, and I could see my breath in the dim light. The whispers grew louder, more intense, and the shadows seemed to writhe and twist. I felt a cold hand on my shoulder. I turned to see a face, pale and gaunt, with eyes that glowed like coal. It whispered my name, and I felt my blood run cold. And that was the end of the entries. As I close the last journal, a faint whistle drifts through the air, sending a chill down my spine. My hands tremble as I lock the doors and draw the curtains. The tales of Abingdon aren't just stories. They're a legacy of fear and darkness passed down through generation. I realize that by reading these journals, I have awakened something that should have remained buried.
So you better burn those entries then.
Just burn everything, just to be safe. For the longest time, I believed in this, but only since reading the journals have these instances started happening firsthand to me. The nights are long and sleepless. I hear the haunting whistle every night, growing closer with each passing hour. Shadows dance just beyond the tree line, and the air is thick with the weight of an untold secret. I know I have to leave this place, but deep down I fear that some things you can't run from. The past has a way of catching up with us in Abingdon. I love my family home, but I'm afraid I can't stay here much longer.
So they're saying that if you tell the stories, it starts to haunt you?
I think if you open a chest and read it.
Did the grandma open the chest?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's just... But she's saying it's being passed down, so maybe it's just...
But who told the grandma? Because she never said anything.
I think it's starting with her.
Okay. For it to be passed down, I need to be more than just 2 generations.
Well, girl, I don't know. She didn't go into detail. I'm just telling you. She's saying I think. She doesn't even know for sure. I just know she's there reading this, so and maybe knowing about it and reading it and being in that place, now she might experience it if she stays there too long. Okay, this comment says something interesting. It's from A_salty_llama.
What the heck?
And it says, my grandma is from Appalachia. Although she's quite a bit older than your grandma. Whatever you hear, do not look outside the windows after dark. Acknowledging anything out there gives it power to acknowledge you right back, which you do not want.
So they have rules?
Yes, girl, there's the rules of the Appalachia. Don't whistle, don't go off the trail.
Monsters have rules. Like, if you talk to me, I get to talk to you.
No, I think, like, if you don't acknowledge it, it doesn't have hold over you. But once you acknowledge it, as we see, it's... Also, there's another thing I want to mention. I feel like it's making them stay. Only because, like, she was saying, like she... What did she say? She was saying, she just says that, like, I know I have to leave this place, but, like, deep down, I fear that things will catch up for her if she runs.
I have a question. Are we to assume that the grandma died from that thing? Because it didn't say how she died, did it?
No.
And the last entry is her looking into the face, but that's a weird place to stop it at. Like, nothing else happened after that?
You know, because she's writing this, and then...
It just stops. And it's not like she's writing it and he's doing it at the same time. Because she have to live through it to write it later.
I don't know. Maybe that wasn't her grandma. I don't know.
Yeah, he wrote that.
About to fear me.
Yeah.
But
I still think it's grandpa.
All I know is that was kind of creepy. Like
the monster is in love with grandma.
I'm just trying to figure out why grandma stayed there for almost 40 years. I would have sold it and moved somewhere else. Well, you've made it to the end.
You must really like the sounds of our high-pitched voices and quirky commentary.
You might as well hit that bell to be notified every time we drop new content. If you want to follow our social medias, they will be linked in the description box below.
Bye!
Bye, you guys. No whistling, and do not look out that window.